I've mentioned my admiration for Kevin Smith in the past. Not only do I enjoy several of his movies, which are guilty pleasures of mine, and listen to a few of his podcasts, but as a comic book writer, he's written some pretty decent storylines too. My favorite of his, which I have reviewed on the channel, is Guardian Devil, which depicts one of my favorite Marvel heroes, Daredevil, going up against my all-time favorite supervillain, Mysterio. But another one of the stories I enjoy by him is a Green Arrow one, titled The Sounds of Violence, from 2002. It spanned issues number 12 to 15 of Green Arrow Volume 3, and was written by Smith, with artwork by Phil Hester. It debuted a very unique villain in Green Arrow's Rogues Gallery, named Onomatopoeia, a serial killer who targets non-superpowered superheroes. I wanted to discuss this storyline today, its strengths, its weaknesses, and the character of Onomatopoeia himself. So, without any further delay, let's dive right into it. The story starts off with issue number 12, and the cover is a bit misleading. It makes it look like we are about to witness an epic one-on-one battle between Green Arrow and Carter Hall, Hawkman, which would be fucking awesome, but instead, the two are just laughing it up inside the library of the JSA headquarters. Black Canary had overheard them, getting ready for a dinner date she had planned with Oliver Queen, and was worried the two were fighting with how loud they were getting. But no, they are just poking fun at Batman and his relationship with his cape, with Hawkman comparing it to Linus and his blanket from Peanuts, which is hilarious. In all seriousness though, Ollie tells Carter that he is terrified about going on a date with Dinah. The two had broken up before he had died, and he doesn't want to make any mistakes with her now that he has a second chance. Carter tells him to take it slow. As a quick recap, Ollie had died in Green Arrow Volume 2, number 101 from 1995. Queen had been killed while he was an agent for the NSA, who had sent him to stop the eco-terrorist organization called Eden Corps. They had constructed a powerful bomb named the Mutajack 99, which was on course to destroy Metropolis. Green Arrow would get his arm trapped inside the device, and releasing it would cause the bomb to detonate. Superman arrived and offered to amputate Queen's arm, the only other option that was really on the table at that point, but he refused. Instead, Ollie would sacrifice himself by allowing the bomb to go off early, saving the city in the process. Eventually, Green Arrow would be resurrected in the 10-issue story Quiver, also by Smith and Hester. Hal Jordan was still being possessed at that time by the fear entity Parallax, and would use his vast cosmic powers to bring Ollie back to life. However, it was a version of Oliver Queen minus a soul from earlier in his life, prior to the events of the Longbow Hunter storyline from 1987 by Mike Grell. All you need to know is that what had happened and what followed that story made Oliver Queen a much more guilt-ridden and angry man, willing to end a life, not the kind of hero he wanted to be. So the older and matured version of himself stayed in heaven, hoping to find peace. His soul remained there, while his younger body was sent back to Earth. Green Arrow's soul would be reunited with his body though. An evil occultist named Stanley Dover would attempt to sacrifice Oliver Queen on Earth and take over his body, threatening the life of Ollie's son, Connor Hawk, who he had had with an ex-girlfriend named Sandra Moonday Hawk, prior to Queen becoming Green Arrow. Connor gets attacked by a group of demons Dover summons, and the younger version of Ollie would contact his older soul in heaven and try to convince him to take his body back. The older version of Oliver does so, reluctantly, in order to save the life of his son, and puts an end to Stanley Dover's schemes. Anyways, let's finally get back to the Sounds of Violence, the story that transpired after the events of Quiver, and the main topic of my video today. Ollie and Dinah get dressed up real fancy and go out for dinner. Queen confesses to her that while he was dead, he realized the best part about being alive was her. She was the one thing he couldn't let go of, and he is willing to wait as long as it takes for a chance to be with her again, and it's okay if she wants to take it slow. Unfortunately, the romance is cut short, at least temporarily, when the Riddler and his men attack the establishment, robbing the guests of their wallets and jewelry. Dinah and Ollie team up to take them all down, one by one, and they haven't missed a beat in their time away from each other. In all the excitement, they can't help themselves any longer and give in to their emotions, sharing a passionate kiss. When they get back to Dinah's room at the JSA headquarters, the two make sweet, sweet love. And it's here where some of the corniness and cringe I sometimes associate with Kevin Smith's writing rears its ugly head. The sex puns are a bit much and last an entire page. Queen hitting the bullseye, shooting all of his arrows. If anything is left in his quiver, Ollie goes down on Dinah and says he's going to pay a visit to Sherwood Forest. She says she can't speak for the men, but that he's making her marry. Good lord, is it heavy-handed. It's like I'm witnessing some cheesy porno. Again, it's a bit much, even for a character as humorous as Green Arrow. I'm surprised Smith didn't have Black Canary use her screaming powers when she climaxed. A bit of a missed opportunity there. We cut to Philadelphia, where the city's newest superhero, Virago, has been making a name for herself. She hears a scream of someone in danger, and when she goes to investigate, she is shot with a tranquilizing dart while swinging on her cable, causing her to fall. She lands in an alley below and comes face to face with a mysterious man in a black trench coat, holding a voice box, making the sounds of the person she heard screaming. The man holds a desert eagle up to her forehead and pulls the trigger. BLAM! Dinah wakes up in bed the following morning, and she hears Green Arrow and Hawkman arguing outside her door, for real this time. Carter is upset at Ollie for not taking it slow with her, playing with her emotions when she is already a so-called broken mess. They begin fighting each other out in the hallway until it's broken up by Dinah with an ultrasonic yell. Pissed at them both, she storms off, completely naked. Thankfully, JSA member Mr. Terrific is there to cover up all her areas with his T-spheres. The next night in the city of Harrisburg, another new hero named Buckeye is targeted. When he comes home after a crime-fighting sesh, he hears a dripping emanating from the bathroom and finds his wife Meg murdered by Onomatopoeia, hanging from the shower rod. Same deal as earlier. The villain puts a gun to the hero's forehead, but this time, rather than ask who the man is or beg for his life like Virago did, Buckeye accepts death, having nothing else to live for now that his wife is gone. BLAM! While dragging Buckeye's body through the living room, Onomatopoeia overhears a late-night talk show on the television where the hosts are discussing superheroes, specifically Green Arrow. They mention how he is just a regular guy who uses bow and arrows, and could be anyone among them. Onomatopoeia latches onto this fact, clearly having an interest in targeting non-metahuman superheroes, and decides to make Green Arrow his next victim. Green Arrow and his son Connor Hawk save a woman from a group of rapists in a Star City parking garage. One of the criminals escapes and goes through an emergency exit. Connor follows them, only to find the man's head separated from his body. Onomatopoeia attacks Connor with an axe, and the young hero tries his best to fight back against the assailant, but sadly, just like the others, is shot point blank in the head. FYI, Connor's superhero title was also Green Arrow, having taken up the mantle when his father died. So, when Onomatopoeia attacked him, he mixed up the two green arrows, or possibly believed there was only one, not knowing the original, Oliver Queen, had come back from the dead. Connor is wounded from the bullet entering his brain, but miraculously is still alive, and his father takes him to the Star City Hospital. Doctors begin operating on him, but his chances don't look good, and all hinge on a blood transfusion. Dinah arrives and embraces Ollie, hearing what had happened on the news, and believing he was the one who had been shot. Queen gives his blood so it can be used to save Connor, but it leaves him severely weakened for an hour. Onomatopoeia learns from the news that Connor had survived, and that there is another, older green arrow, and goes to the hospital to finish what he started. He enters the operating room and kills two of the doctors working on Connor. Black Canary breaks in and attacks him, but the villain manages to incapacitate her and shoots up the room. He tries to shoot Connor again, but drops his gun when he is impaled in the shoulder with an arrow fired by Ollie. The next sequence is really intense, as Green Arrow regains order in the room, asking the remaining doctors to continue operating on his son, still feeling the effects of the blood loss from the blood transfusion. He puts the end of a fully drawn arrow directly in Onomatopoeia's mouth. He tells the man of very few words that if Connor dies, then so will he. Thankfully, after 30 minutes, the doctors manage to remove the bullet and tell Ollie that Connor will live. It's at this point that Onomatopoeia makes a break for it, biting down on the end of the arrow and pulling it away from the string of the bow in Green Arrow's hand. He kicks Queen, but gets another arrow through the left hand, then the right, and finally the other shoulder. Onomatopoeia flees to the hospital's roof, having removed the arrows, but Ollie sticks him with two more, one in the hand and one in the foot. The one stabbing his foot is strong enough that it holds his weight when he hangs off the side of the building. Ouch! Onomatopoeia pulls his foot off of it, double ouch, and falls to the ground below. When Green Arrow reaches the area where Onomatopoeia fell, the villain is gone, leaving behind a broken arrow and some blood in the same circular target pattern as the one found on his mask. I find this storyline, The Sounds of Violence, to be a lot of fun, even if the cleverness and maturity of Kevin Smith's writing can fluctuate in areas. I do find this story to be one of his stronger ones, though it is short and simple, only 4 issues long, and doesn't really have a whole lot to say thematically. The villain Onomatopoeia is pretty cool and fairly unique. I love his design and how he lures victims towards him using sound, or imitated sound. All he says are sound effects, onomatopoeia, mimicking what he hears, and that's it. Because of that, this kind of character needs to be used sparingly in order to remain effective. He's very limited. Kevin Smith has stated in the past that the character of Onomatopoeia could only work on a comic page and wouldn't easily be adapted cinematically in live action, and it's not hard to see why. Using onomatopoeia is a way for comic books to simulate the sounds of real life, but it's a lot harder for a human being to repeat sounds, imitate them, without them sounding inaccurate or goofy. I think it would be incredibly difficult for an audience to take this kind of character seriously in live action, and for other characters to convincingly be tricked by the sounds coming from him, having them sound real, believable. Unless, of course, you had someone like Michael Winslow from the Police Academy films play him. Not much is known about the villain Onomatopoeia, but Kevin Smith explored the character a little bit further in his 2008 Batman story called Cacophony. It's centered around a turf war between the Joker and Maxi Zeus, after the Clown Prince of Crime learned that a new street drug Zeus had been distributing across Gotham, called Chuckles, was made using Joker venom in combination with ecstasy. Joker teams up with Onomatopoeia, and the comic officially labels him a hero killer that targets non-metahumans. We also get to briefly see his civilian identity, a family man with a nice house, a wife, a dog, and some kids, and he has a secret room in his basement that houses a trophy case with all the masks of his hero victims. An empty case can be seen for Green Arrow, and there is a new one for Batman he has added. His appearance in Cacophony added some stuff, but it also raised more questions as well. You wonder how he keeps all his killing hidden from his family. He must be able to speak more words than just onomatopoeia for his civilian life to function properly. I assume he limits his vocabulary when out on the field to prevent his identity from being discovered, but he must have some sort of sick fascination with sound as well. He'd have to. And I want to know why he has so much hostility towards superheroes without powers. What happened to him? What's his problem? And does he have superpowers himself? Because a regular guy would not be able to walk away from the amount of injuries he has sustained. But that's enough for me. Let me know what you think of Onomatopoeia as a villain down in the comment section below. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the sounds of violence as well. Do you think it's a good story, or kind of forgettable outside of its antagonist? I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and always stay nerdy.